Hi guys, Tugger here with a new video, and this video will be my 10.1 PvP guide video for Fury Warrior. We're going to go over stats, tier sets, and how important it will be for this particular build. We're talking about the build as well. I'm going to actually talk about the philosophy of that build, and you can be surprised at how I'm actually trying to make it work, because it does work. I really enjoyed this build, and I feel like this is the build that will make Fury Warrior very much a S tier, something like that. We will see, of course, whenever the season has started and we actually have like a lot of great gameplay from 3v3 and solo shuffle and also RPGs and such. But I feel like this Fury Warrior build and like playstyle will be very strong, and I feel like a lot of people will hate playing versus us. We're going to talk about also the PvP talents and what is changed, but also we're going to talk about comps, what you can play in 2s, in 3s, RPGs, whatever. We're going to talk about all of this, and I will make sure that you understand after this video that you have more knowledge from after this video than before the video, right? Okay, now what is a Fury Warrior? Now Fury Warrior is a now underestimated class in spec. Me the first in 10.0.5 and 10.0.7, I kind of really judge Fury Warrior as a worse arms warrior, pretty much harder to actually have like the slaughterhouse stacks, also because it got nerfed multiple times, and the self-heal got nerfed, and it felt like the damage was predictable as well, and consistent damage and such. But with the full set and the stats and the build that I'm going to propose, I feel like you have now the consistent damage part really well, but also the burst part very well, and you will be able to burst at any point. I'm going to show you also on the PTR how it can work. Now let's start right away with the stats, and again, timestamps, but do watch the whole video, because I feel like a lot of people ask me the questions that are actually answered into the video, so please do watch the video, but you have timestamps if you do want to skip over a few parts, like for example macros and such. Now let's start right away with stats, and also the full 50 eye level that you should allocate to your gear. I feel like boots are very good because you can activate it every time you have a Stormbolt. A Stormbolt is a 30-second CD, and it is also a 30-second CD on the boots like effect, the metal, which gives you the primary stat increase. It's very easy to actually apply, and I would just upgrade that. Of course, you can also upgrade the Helm of Vengeance, but I think there is also a reason why you would not do that, because the tier set, the stats are very I would say unpersonalized, so you don't really have a choice on the stats you're going to choose, and you prefer to have the best stats possible on the PvP tier set, because you will lose a few stats because of that. Anyways, all right, now stats. We're going to discuss about how mastery is a very important stat here. We're going to do a lot of damage whenever we have a lot of mastery. Haste is very important as well, but you do get haste because of rampage stacks, and just in general your haste will be high because of your spec. It is still going to be very smooth. It doesn't matter if you're going for haste or mastery. I prefer mastery because you're going to do some big slaps, and haste is very good for having more GCDs, having more rage regeneration and such, but in general, I tested both and felt mastery is the way to go. If you're like a human like me, you can pick like double trinkets, so it will do even more damage whenever you get like all the procs going. And in general, we're going to tend and try to get full mastery. Of course, the tier set is not really optimized, so the stats that you're going to go for are probably very much haste. You'll have a lot of crit on the tier set. Unfortunately, I don't really like it, but it is what it is. But if you can go for mastery, you should go for mastery. Of course, versatility is still very important, but you can still kind of jam into it. You can compensate here and there for some versatility. I tested Earthen Rid. I really like it. It gives me a boost of mastery. Again, mastery means damage, means also just big slaps. Really like it. Everything you're going to do will do damage, so I really like it. And Sophic Devotion on my second weapon. Of course, everything like gearing wise will change, because you will have your honor gear, you will have your force set whenever you can, and that's actually a very important thing. I'm going to show you now the the PTR so I can show you the foreset, and I'm going to talk about the build, and I'm going to talk about the rotation on the PTR. So I'm going to, of course, put timestamps when needed. So I'm going to change my capture card real quick. Where is my friend? The testing thingy. Poop. I think it's good now. I think we are good. We are on the PTR. So the foreset. How important is it? I think it's very important. First and foremost, I really like the aesthetic. Really like it, like dragon like ish thing. Looks like Senseiya, if you know the anime, the manga. Senseiya, very nice. The foreset, discuss. Rampage damage and critical strike chance increased by 10%. It's in PvE. I think it's 5% in PvP. I think it's like a bugged tooltip. It is 10% maybe, but I think it's 5%. Anyways, you should assume it's 5%. I assume it's 5% because it's half. So 5% increased damage on rampage and critical strike damage. A chance on rampage. If it's 10%, then it's all like even better, right? But the most important thing is the foreset. Rampage causes your next bloodthirst to have a 10% critical strike chance and deal 25% increased damage and generate 2 additional rage, stacking up to 10 times. It is halved in PvP, so it will be. I can do damage on the dummy. It will be doing 5% critical strike chance, so it will be like topping 50% if you have stacked 10 times, and it will do 12% times 10 for your bloodthirst or bloodbath. And our playstyle will be around getting those 10 stacks or even 8 stacks or 7 stacks really, and do some big bloodbaths, and it does a lot of damage. I'm going to talk about the build right now on the PTR because still it doesn't really matter. That's the way. And the most important thing about the foreset is it's one of the best in the game, like Enhancement Shaman. If you're playing around it, you're going to do insane damage. Of course, not every game you will be able to do 10 stacks because sometimes you will have to do bloodthirst and bloodbaths to actually like sustain yourself. But in trees, for example, you can take a teammate, like for example Shadow Priest, and you know you're not going to be the targets most of the time. You can play like a melee cast comp and you'll be fine. It's your choice to play comps where you are the target. You could also play just comps where you are not target, and then bloodthirst and bloodbath just become like a blood machine in damage. So I think it's a very good thing, and you should be like actually thinking about. I would recommend to go for the chest piece, which is giving you versatility haste. It's a big piece of versatility, so I would recommend to do that. We have haste mastery on shoulders. Again, 2 big stats for Fury Warrior, so I would go for that as well. I don't really like the helm, but I think the legs are a bit worse. But the critical strike chance and haste, it's iffy. The only issue is I cannot really talk too much about the stats because they can always change it in a future patch, because everyone is actually like up in arms with the actual tier sets and how they don't really like the stats on it, so it could change. But I took the helm with critical strike chance and haste. Personally, I would maybe go for the legs, depending on the stats that you will have final. You just need a lot of mastery and a lot of haste. You do not really want critical strike, and versatility is always nice to have. But if you can like just go for mastery, you should go for mastery. Here, for example, haste, versatility, 2 good stats, so why not? And then I have my normal legs giving me haste, but you can also just buy like mastery legs or whatever you can on the World PvP vendor or the Conquest vendor or Honor vendor. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the build. I'm going to talk about the class tree real quickly because it didn't really change that much. Basically, you are taking a lot of defensives for your team and for yourself. You are taking a lot of damage when possible, a lot of CC when possible. I want to really talk briefly about a noob trap, which is Shockwave. I know that a lot of people are talking about Shockwave like it's the messiah of Fury and Arms Warrior. For example, Socrates made a video about like top PvP specs, and he kind of like glossed over Shockwave and how big it is. For me, it is not big. If you're going for Shockwave, the problem is you're going to spend 2 extra points on the latest part of that tree, and you will have to sacrifice dual wield specialization and spear piercing verdict to get this, and you also sacrifice a few points here to get barbaric training, which is only a 20% increased damage on whirlwind and slam. So it's a dead talent again. It's really a dead talent. So you're actually losing 5% damage overall. You're going to lose the damage from Spear of Bastion because we're playing a Spear of Bastion build, and you're going for a 3-second stun AoE, which is quite nice on a 40-second CD, and only a 5% stamina increase. I feel like it's a huge loss as a Fury Warrior, and even more as an Arms Warrior. It's not only about Spear of Bastion. Imagine you're playing, I would say not Spear of Bastion, but you're playing like Wild Strikes with Thunderous Roar and Thunderous Words. You would like to have like a 1-minute CD roar. You do not really want to have a 1.3-minute CD roar, right? Because then what's the point? You're going to lose a lot of damage for nothing, and you also lose dual wield specialization again. So it is a noob trap. If you want to have fun with it, go have fun with it. If you want to do RBGs with it, I can understand for RBGs because it's stunning everyone, and in a big team fight it's okay to lose a bit of damage to actually stun 5 people. But in arenas, having 3 people stuns really is quite rare, and even having that 2 people stunned is quite rare. And yes, Stormbolt is kind of nerfed. It's also a 3-second stun instead of a 4-second stun, but I still think you're losing way too much to go for that. So do not go for that. That's my warning. You could do that. You know what? You can do whatever you want because it is your class, your spec, your character, but personally I would not play that. So you have my opinion about Shockwave. This is kind of the build, and you are like quite flexible. If you do not play versus a shield or a immunity, you can basically just remove this and go for BT immunity, for example. Or if you want to play like for a team utility with Riling Cry, you could do that as well. If you're doing RBGs or BGs or whatever, Second Wind is also a fantastic tool, so you don't really need to go sit and eat or try to take a regen on the map. It's not always super useful. Thunderclap and Blood and Thunder is really not good as Fury. Does no damage, and it doesn't even spread rend as, for example, Arm Warrior. So even in RBGs, unusable. If you're playing versus a caster which has no shields, so for example a elemental shaman who has a lot of casted abilities, you can go for concussive blows and get like a 5% increased damage on him every time you're going to do a pummel. The uptime is quite nice as well, so if you can have the uptime like all the time, it is actually a very good ability, very good talent. In general, those are the few things that you can go for, but personally I would still play with Spear of Bastion with this build because again I'm going to show you the burst that it can provide, especially with the 4-set. You can play like a dot build again. You can play with Cold Steel and Hot Blood, Cold Steel, Hot Blood with Thunderous Roar and Thunderous Words and such, and do a lot of damage. But I feel like with the current state of 4-set and the current state of Fury Warrior, you do want a lot of burst damage. This is like unpredictable, and this is unpredictable. You will probably see weak auras for that, but it is pretty unpredictable. Now the Fury tree, you will kind of see that there's a few flex talents. For example, Hack and Slash, you can remove it and go for Warpaint. Personally, Warpaint is not really that interesting. It's like only a 5% reduced damage in PvP, but 5% is still something, and it's like up all the time, so I guess you can go for that. But pretty much the idea of this build is Crushing Blow, Crushing Blow, Crushing Blow, Rampage, 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 Onslaught, 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 and whenever you have 10 stacks on Bloodbath, Bloodbath, and it will do a lot of damage. Of course, what I'm telling you right now is not the rotation. I'm just like emphasizing the damage, I would say, profile of the spec. I'm going to show you the rotation quite, like very soon, like in a few minutes, hopefully. But basically, we're taking every single talent that gives you more damage for Raging Blow. You can basically do this, right? This is probably the better spec. You don't really need like a execute 35%, but you need like 3 raging blows or crushing blows to actually regen a lot of rage. You take a lot of modifiers on like crushing blow and raging blow. You take also all the modifiers for bloodbath. So bloodthirst, 10% increased damage. It is a modifier for bloodbath, and bloodthirst and also bloodbath, dealing 50% increased damage to enemies who are below 35% health, is also the one thing that is going to make you invincible. I'm going to show you. The damage is also very nice for Rampage because you're going to stack with Slaughtering Strikes, because you are not playing with Annihilator every time you're going to do a Crushing Blow or Raging Blow or Onslaught. It will give you a few stacks, and whenever you have 5 stacks, it will do 100% more damage on Rampage, because again, it will do a lot of damage. Again, we have also all the modifiers for Rampage. We have a lot of quite like fun things, like for example Odin's Fury with Titanic Rage, which you can also play with Dancing Blades if you want to do more damage like overall. Personally, sometimes I play with Titanic Rage, sometimes with Dancing Blades. I'm going to show you with Dancing Blades for this particular rotation. But it depends really on the playstyle and what you want to do, right? Tactical Rage is quite nice if you want to do some like AoE, because we are not playing with improved whirlwind. I know it's very annoying, but it is like not needed with this build. I'm going to show you. Onslaught, very nice. Please do press that more often to get Rampage stacks, like Slaughtering Strikes to do more damage on Rampage. But overall, this is like not really a new build. If you already saw my Fury Warrior PvP guide from the past, this is kind of the build I played before. But I feel like the current set really enables my playstyle, and I'm going to show you as well. We're playing with Endering Rage, Slaughterhouse, and Blood Rage. Endering Rage is kind of situational, because again, it depends if you're going to get a lot of like movement impairing effects on you, or if you're going to get a lot of CC. If you're getting a lot of movement impairing effects, good thing is you're going to get enraged, so it will give you more damage as well on everything you're going to do. And it's always nice to get enraged, especially for nothing, because you're going to get like movement impairing effects on you, which is a slow or a root or even a CC. And while enraged, if you're suffering a lot of control effect, for example a stun, a fear, whatever, you can actually get like CC'd, you will actually have a chance to grant recklessness, and it's actually a very good PvP talent. Now this is very situational. Again, you don't really have to play that, but there is a few options for you if you want to not play with that. Death Wish has been changed, especially very interesting for BGs and RBGs. If you want to have like a killer game with a lot of damage, you can do that. Every 4 seconds you can stack Death Wish, and Death Wish can stack 5 times and can give you 15% more damage overall, but also damage done. So it means that you're going to get hit by a lot of things and still have a lot of like chunk on your HP. But the good thing is, again, you can go around in BGs and RBGs, and in arenas, if you're playing with a Shadow Priest, for example, and I do play a bit of our Shadow Priest, so I know how it feels, the Shadow Priest is going to get trained regardless. And the Death Wish is going to be your trump card. If they're not going to train you, then you're going to train them, and trust me, 50% more damage overall if you have Avatar up and you have your Slaughtering Strikes up. You're going to do some sick damage. I might show that in the video real quickly, although very situational. I'm not playing Death Wish all the time, but if I can play with a caster where I think they're going to go for him, I'm going to play Death Wish to actually punish them and try to get them on me so they can actually free cast. Master and Commander, I would not play that. Before it was very good, but especially with the conduit, but right now the conduit is not like something existing, and for me like from Shadowlands, but for me right now Master and Commander is that talent. Disarm, very nice, again versus melees, you should play that, to be honest. Demolition, very nice if you're playing versus a warlock or a like mistweaver. You're going to remove Cocoon with just a Wrecking Throw, and that's actually a very good thing. Warbringer, you should not play that anymore. It's super nerfed in PvP. They nerfed it like to the ground. It does no damage anymore, so do not play that. And Rebound is quite nice, but having like a 10-second increase CD on Spell Reflection is really bad. I kind of wish it was not like an increased CD. If it was like reflects the next 2 incoming spells cast on you and reflected spells deal 50% extra damage to the attacker, and that's it, I guess that would be a good option versus casters. But having an increased CD on Spell Reflection, which is an important thing to cast, I feel like it's a bit of a bum. Slaughterhouse, very nice. They buffed it again, but they nerfed it and now buffed it to a 20-second duration. So whenever you have like 36% like healing reduction for 20 seconds, it will be lower because of course you have to like rampage 3 times. Basically you will have like 12 seconds left, something like that, if you're like rampaging a lot. It's still a very good thing. It's nice to have. Of course, the only hardest part is to get those stacks up whenever you're playing with an MS Effects class. Like for example, Windwalker, he's doing Rising Sun Kick, so he's going to remove your Slaughterhouse stacks before it gets higher than 25%. So that's the only hard part. But I feel like in twos, you're going to slaughter people because 36% reduced healing is insane. Plus the dampening, like 30%. People are not going to heal that. So I think in twos, Fury Warrior will be very strong, and you should like look forward to playing the Fury Warriors in the beginning of the season. Blood Rage, very important spell. I really like it. Again, clearing roots is super important. I wish I had that on my Arms Warrior, but I do not have that, and I feel like pressing Blood Rage whenever you're getting Frost Nova is the best feeling you can actually do and have, because the Frost Mage will not understand, or he will understand, but he will not like be able to do anything versus that. I really like that as well. Now, let's talk about the rotation. It's insane. Right now it has 1 HP, so it's below 35%. I'm going to show you. But what you want to do is actually just like build up your stack. So if I do a rampage, boom, I have like 1 stack of Merciless Assault, and I'm going to try to get 10 stacks. I'm going to do 10 stacks. So basically I'm going to rampage again, and I'm going to rampage again. I have 4 stacks, and I'm going to keep doing that until I have enough stacks to do my damage. And I'm going to show you, since I have my details, the amount of damage. I'm not pressing Bloodbath, by the way. Bloodbath and Bloodthirst, I'm not pressing it because I do not want to spend my stacks. And whenever I have like 9 stacks, that's the moment I'm going to burst. So what I can do right now, rampage, blood rage into recklessness, into avatar, into another rampage, into a Spear of Bastion, into a Bloodbath, boom, 270k damage for just 1 Bloodbath. And it's really surprising, and you can keep on going, man. You can keep on going. Look, I'm still doing some bloodbath here and there whenever I can. Here I have like 3 stacks. I will have 3 stacks. I'm going to do real quickly a little stun, and then a bloodbath, 64k. Again, normal hit, very strong. And I'm going to show you bloodbath did 270k damage. It's insane. Of course, in 2v2 versus double DPS, this is not going to matter because people are going to die before. But in threes or in Soul Shuffle, where you can have a lot of uptime and where it's actually important to build up damage and people are not going to die in 30 seconds, having this is insane. You can also expand a few like CDs to build this faster, right? You can do a recklessness to actually get like rampages a lot more faster and get like 10 stacks a lot faster, and then do an avatar into a Spear of Bastion, into a rampage, into a bloodbath, and people are going to die. And I'm going to show you again because I think you should understand how damaging it is for the enemy team. And rampage does also quite a lot of damage, and I want to remind you guys, on this PvP PTR build, I have only 422 eye level. It will only get better with better gear. Like if you are 450 with full conquest point or full conquest gear, this is going to do insane damage. Of course, the health pools are going to be higher, but remember, if someone is low HP and you have a Spear of Bastion and they're trying to heal that guy, he's going to get deleted. And of course, yeah, I'm kind of using a talent which gives me 50% more damage on blood buff on below 35%. But it means that this is your new execute ability. If someone is below 35%, think about doing blood buff. And yes, sometimes you can do it on a 10 stacks blood buff, or you can do a 7 stacks or a 5 stacks. This is your decision. Personally, if I feel like there is no way I can kill him because their healer is really good and he has damage reduction, I'm just waiting for his damage reduction to drop and then do my whole burst rotation. But I'm going to show you right now, like, for example, I'm like starting right away. I'm going to recklessness just to get my rage up very fast, right? I'm going to do this, a onslaught bomb, and I have already 3 stacks, right? I have already 4 stacks right now, and I'm going to build until I have like 7 stacks, and I'm going to try to do a lot of damage right away. So onslaught again, and like I'm doing a lot of damage, right? And that guy is going to pop his CDs because he saw recklessness. I'm going to do a last rampage into a avatar, into a spear of bastion, into another rampage, into a bloodbath, and this is 250k, and that's without like using any more like Sophic Devotion or whatever, right? And you can play around that. It does a lot of damage, and I guess some people can be very skeptical, and I can understand that. But guys, this damage is like unreal. Like I feel like people do not understand the damage that Fury Warrior can provide now with the 4 set. And you do not really have to go for 10 stacks, right? If you're going for a bit lower, like for example, I'm going to try to get like 2A5 stacks, which is probably the more common thing that is going to happen in 2s or in 3s. And if you feel like you have a kill pressure, like right now, oh, I see there is a kill pressure, boom, I stun him into a blood buff, that's 90k, but I have like no avatar up, no nothing, right? And I really feel like there is ways to do a lot of damage, and it really depends about you to actually utilize the damage that you can actually provide for your team. Like again, it's very easy to have stacks. Like for example, I have already 6 stacks. I'm going to do a onslaught into another execute, into a rampage, into another rampage, and then I can like prepare my damage right away. Boom, execute, rampage, and then a blood buff for 156k. Again, it's just something you can have yourself reminded for, right? If you're not using Avatar or Spear of Bastion, the damage is going to be a bit more predictable. But if you're using all the styles, which is Avatar with Spear of Bastion, and then have 10 stacks, you're going to do some insane damage. I'm going to show you one more time, so you can actually see the damage that I'm like actually like saying to you guys, that it is something you can look forward to. So you see, we are just trying to build to 10 stacks. Oh, I'm going to show you 8 stacks, right? I'm going to show you 8 stacks. Like, look, this guy is low HP since ages, and he's going to get healed. Boom, boom, boom. And then I'm going to get 7 stacks, get my avatar up, rampage into a Spear of Bastion, into a bloodbath, and that's 225k. Again, my HP, my gear, my build is not the most optimal on the PTR. If you have like, again, the best gear possible, you're going to chunk people. And I recommend everyone to actually like rush the 4 set. I think the 4 set is very important. More important than you would think. I think the 4 set for Fury is very strong. The 4 set for Arms Warrior is quite weak. So if you're playing more Arms, then I can understand why you're hesitating to go for the 4 set. But if you are planning to play Fury, I would recommend you guys to really look into the 4 set and try to have the 4 set ASAP. If you can do raids, please do. Myself, I want to try to get raids and to get the 4 set more like faster. But the problem is I'm not really a PvE fan, especially in retail. Like on Classic, I can basically do PvE. It wouldn't really matter for me. But in retail, I'm not really a fan of PvE in retail. But if you can do PvE, I would recommend to do that and try to get the 4 set ASAP, because it will probably be 6 weeks from now before we get the catalyst to actually make the pieces. So if you can have 4 set before that, you're going to have insane damage. Now, is it going to get nerfed? It's already nerfed 50% in PvP, so I do not know if they're going to try to nerf it again. The only issue I see is it's going to be cheesable, so you're going to do some cheese damages. You're going to see a lot of PvP montages from people that are actually one-shotting people with blood buff. So that's the issue, but we'll see if they're going to keep it like that or not. I would like them to keep it like that, but we'll see. Again, I'm looking forward to actually see people play with the Tierset and actually give me some returns on how they feel about the Tierset. So let's go back on the main game. But hopefully you do understand the build. The build is actually very straightforward, right? You're not using bloodbath to do or build rage. You're using bloodbath as a finisher. That's your execute ability, right? It's a bit the same like, for example, Armfire building his damage to do one big mortal strike or one big execute with fatality, for example. So I really like that playstyle. It makes me feel like Fury is a bit more not complicated, because let's be real, Fury is not very complicated, but a bit more nuanced, and I really like that. And in general, you can still do a lot of pretty things. Like, again, you can even like push the button a bit further and go for Storm of Steel, no, not Storm of Steel, a Hurricane, and have like 15% increased strength, and then your bloodbath will do even more damage, right? But I think it's the most practical build, at least in general, if you want to have like a high-performing Fury Warrior spec. You can always like play some cheesy builds, but I think this build is the one that you actually need. I'm going to put it in the comments so you can actually copy it. Again, I would strongly recommend to get the Tierset for this build. This build is played around the Tierset. You can actually play that also outside of Tierset. Again, doing a bloodbath on someone that is like less than 35% HP, and you have Spear of Bastion and Avatar and Recklessness, and you're critting, you're going to do still a lot of great damage, but it's not going to be comparable as the power that you could have with a Tierset. And the reason why I take Spear of Bastion is basically to get the critical strike damage increase, because you're going to like crit that bloodbath regardless. Like, you get 50% stacks, like 50% from the stacks that you're going to provide to yourself, and you also have your innate crit. And if you have Recklessness, you have pretty much 100% crit on bloodbath. So also play with Piercing Verdict, because I really like the instant damage that it can provide. But again, flexible. You can maybe play with Thunderous Roar. I personally would not do that, because you're not playing around a dot spec. You don't really want to do dots. You don't really want to do like damage over time. You just want to kill and murder people with your bloodbath. But you also can murder people with Rampage and Crushing Blow, don't get me wrong. But if that guy survives the damage, you're here prepared to do even more damage whenever you can, and you just need to space your CDs. Please, you use your Odin's Fury to build up damage and to build up like pressure on the enemy. He will use CDs. Recklessness can bait a lot of CDs as well. He's going to see you big and red. He's going to press a CD, and then you're going to Avatar Spear of Bash into a bloodbath, and that guy is going to get murdered. That is the way I would play the game. Anyways, let's talk about comps real quickly. So in 2v2, you are going to probably prioritize playing with a healer. It just is the meta at the moment. A lot of classes lost a lot of self-heal, self-peeling, and in 2v2 the meta is and will still be with a healer. There's just a few specs which have meta comps in twos and can make it work, like for example Demo Mage or Mage Rogue or Rogue Paladin, like a Retribution Paladin or Mage Retribution Paladin. You have a few double DPS comps that can work and will work, but Fury Warriors, they have like a few comps where you can play double DPS, but that's really hard comps, because a lot of like DPSs and healers have a lot of cheats, I would say, cheat deaths, and it's very annoying to deal with, especially in shorter matches, because you are double DPS, you are on a timer. You really have to kill the enemy team as fast as possible, because you don't have self-heals, or you have little to no self-heal. So if you want to play double DPS, you can play with a Enhancement Shaman. They are quite good, like off heals, and they have the damage to actually provide to you one-shots for your team. You can also play with a Retribution Paladin, classic comp, have very fun in twos, but again, a few comps can really make you miserable. For example, a Demon Hunter with a Resto Druid is just impossible for you to actually kill in 1 minute time, right? And the Retribution Paladin can bubble, but that's it. That's the only thing that he has to actually defend himself more than 1 minute. And the same for you. You're going to get a buff, but that's it. And healer wise, I would say you could play best with a mistweaver, although it's nerfed. I guess if it's not playable, you would then decide to for sure play with resto shaman. I think with a resto shaman, you will have a lot of success. They have the damage, they have the CC. You have the damage, you have the CC. He has the tools to actually make you survive a lot of encounters. Although he is also on a timer, because if he uses all his CDs, he will be like free food for a lot of specs. You can play with a holy paladin. Those are the ones that I would suggest to play. You can also play with a preservation evoker, although preservation evoker is significantly weaker in 2s than in 3s, because in 3s you have a lot of AoE healing, in 2s a bit less, so it means that overall your class is working a bit less. But holy paladin is very strong, resto shaman is very strong, mistweaver in general is very strong. And that's it. And preservation evoker. I would not play with a disc priest. I would not play with a holy priest. I would not play with a resto druid. I think those three have a lot of difficulties to actually heal you, and they cannot really play their spec optimally because you are very squishy. So that is my take for 2s. In 3s, I would play with my favorite comp is still Shadow Priest Warrior. It just makes you like have insane games, insane uptime. They are on the Shadow Priest, so you have the pills to actually help your Shadow Priest with Intervene, for example, and Spear of Bastion. The CC is very good, and after that not you can kill into a CC rotation, so it's very, very strong. You can play with a Destruction Warlock, also quite fun. You can also play with a Elemental Shaman, which is Thunder. You can also play Turbo with an Enhancement Shaman, very fun as well. Retribution Paladin Fury Warrior is also quite nice as well. It's a bit less meta right now because Retribution Paladin feels a bit nerfed, but I think it's still good. Just in general, you have a lot of comps, but the good thing is, like I said in the class picking guide for 10.1, warriors have the easiness to actually be able to play with anyone and everyone. You can play with a bronze druid, with a feral druid, you can play with a demon hunter, you can play with a windwalker, you can play with a hunter, you can play with anyone in 3s and make it work. That's the beauty about warrior. I think if you are hesitating about the class and you want to have like a lot of choices, I think warrior in general is a very good class, and arms is a very good spec, fury is a very good spec right now, at least. Yeah, so that's pretty much for 3s. In social, for how do you play your spec, you're trying to do a lot of damage and try to space your CDs. If you can do a blood buff of 10 stacks, just do that. If you feel like the matches are quite faster, try to do a 5 stack or a 6 stack blood buff. It's still going to be doing a lot of damage, especially if you have Avatar and Spear of Bastion up. And if the enemy is below 35% health, he's going to get executed. It's too strong. I think it's very strong. In RBGs, I think Death Wish is going to be quite neat, quite fun as well. So do play that, like around that. I think it's very fun. And you don't have to, because I can understand if you want to not die and you are the target. I think it's going to be very annoying, but if you're not the target, I mean, why not Death Wish, right? In BGs, you can have a lot of fun with it. I might make a video in the future about that, so you can see the montage videos worthy of like Death Wish, right? You're going to have a lot of fun with it. So that's for RBGs. RBGs, I think, just in general, you're not going to be the target caller. I think generally it's going to be the DK. But if you don't have a TK, I think the warrior is the one that is going to target call. At least that's what I'm expecting for myself. Yeah, in World PvP, you're a Fury Warrior, right? You can one-shot people, and you can also sustain a bit. And you should also understand you're very squishy, especially versus melees, but you're like a lot stronger versus casters. Casters are going to do like jack shit for you, so it's actually very strong. So that's pretty much the guide. Do I have a few macros to show you? I think so. I have intervene macro, target is party 1. I have also target for is party 2. I have avatar with closer smash, but that's more for arms warrior. We have also recklessness with the badge, for example. You can do that as well, so you can space those badge windows as well. I have also enrich regeneration with emblem, although I'm not using emblem. You can always use the current emblem to actually like sustain yourself. I have all of Playstore macros, but those are like for arms, and that's it. You can also just always like do a one-shot macro with avatar, recklessness, and Odie's Fury, all three together. I personally would not do that, but if you want to do that, just do that if you want to. You can also do a macro with Spear of Bastion with like a location, so on yourself. So you can actually just do Spear of Bastion Avatar together. Now, you can do that as well, like manually, really, because GCDs are like not present. But it's a very good thing, right? So I'm going to show you one like bonus rotation with Death Wish. Forgot to do that on the PTR, so I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to take Death Wish. Death Wish, where are you? Death Wish, here, there, Death Wish. I'm going to put it on a comfy keybind, and I'm going to show you the Death Wish potential. And it has no GCDs, by the way, so it's very cool. It's on separate GCD. No, it's not on separate GCD. Excuse me. So I'm trying to do Death Wishes to get like 3 stacks, 4 stacks, whatever. It's really cool. Again, boom, 4 stacks. And I'm doing a lot of damage right now. You just see the damage I'm going to do. It's actually insane. Again, 5 stacks Death Wish. Try to keep it up. You don't really need to press that all the time. You do lose a lot of HP though if you're using it. I have 7 stacks, so I'm going to do a recklessness right now. I'm going to do a Death Wish again so it doesn't fall over. And now I have like 9 stacks. What I'm going to do, another Death Wish, do not fall over. Avatar into a Spear of Bastion, into a Rampage, into a big blood buff, and boom, 371k. Goodbye. Tank or not, he's going to die. Healer or not, he's going to die. PS or not, pain suppression or not, he's going to die, man. Look at the damage. 370k crit on blood buff. And that's because of Death Wish, right? So if you want to play around it, you can do that. Of course, you're going to take 50% more damage done, but you can... I mean, I'm going to show you one more time, guys. I'm going to show you one more time. Without Avatar, without nothing, like just a 5 stack blood buff, right? I'm going to do that real quick. So I'm going to Death Wish one more time. I'm going to Death Wish 5 times and then go for a big blood buff, right? So it means that I have like pretty much the damage to actually do a lot of damage. So I have 5 stacks. I'm going to do real quickly my another stack of Rampage just for the good sake, and now I have the damage. I'm going to stun into a blood bath and does 200k damage, right? Just with Death Wish and the trinket. I think the trinket also popped here, and also just your Rampage stacks with 6 stacks. So 6 stacks, 5 Death Wishes, does 200k crit on blood bath. I mean, you can play however you want, but I really like that playstyle, and I think, and hopefully you're also excited because of the video I like proposed to you, and I kind of show you how to do that. It's not very hard. Again, you just need to sustain and survive. Of course, if you're going to do an enrage regeneration, you're going to spam blood bath, so the Tierset will be useless. But outside of that, there is no reason to use blood bath or blood test for just 1% HP. It's doing nothing, especially in dampening. Don't press blood bath only whenever you want to do damage, and the damage again is going to be surprisingly high if you have the chances to stack it up. And if you play with Death Wish, it's even more higher. If you have Avatar and Spear of Bastion up, it's going to be even more higher. And yes, it takes time to build up, but I think Fury Warrior is the ideal spec to do that, because a lot of like classes and specs play around CDs, and here we are not playing around CDs, we're playing around windows, and that's actually a very fun play style in my opinion. So this is pretty much the end of the video. There's a lot of PTR stuff because again, Tierset is going to be pretty big. Hopefully they do not change that. Please do not change that, so I don't have to update this video. Please. But anyway, so it's very fun. Hopefully you do understand the power of Fury and you're going to test it out. You heard it here. Fury Warrior is going to be A or S tier, depending on if you have Tierset. If you have Tierset, it's going to be A or S tier. If you don't have Tierset, it's going to be pretty much the same power level as before. But it is going to be very strong, man. A lot of people are sleeping on it. again, people slept on enhancement shaman as well. I made videos about it, I made guides about it, and now you have people actually putting enhancement shaman in A tier, S tier. While there is a lot of changes, by the way, don't get me wrong, but people were sleeping in 10.7. I think now in 10.1 they're sleeping about Fury Warrior. They're talking about Arms Warrior like they're the Messiah, although they got a nerf, like straight nerf on crit, straight nerf on Mortal Strike, and their Forset is worthless. They still are Arms Warrior, don't get me wrong, they're still going to be strong, but people are like overshotting it right now and they're forgetting about Fury, and I think that's a good thing and a good opportunity for you to actually enjoy that playstyle. Anyways, thank you for watching this video, really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. We make PvP content and everything PvP related to World of Warcraft or any other game. Please do like the video, helps with the algorithm, and we will catch each other very soon in the next video. Have a good day, bye.